There we go. We are live. Let's go. All right, 4 days in a row. This is a record for me. Today we are streaming from my phone as opposed to the tethered network in my house. And, because I looked at the streams that I've been doing and they're underwhelming, right? The pixelation isn't great, and people are like, get a better camera or internet, and it's definitely not the camera, so it is the internet. Or it's the upload speed, I should say. You see a lot of homes have fast download speeds, but few people upload because most of us are consumers of content. But anyway, thank you for joining the stream again. My name is Eric Klopper. Handle is Attorney Klopper, and I'm not just an attorney on social media. If you're tuning in today, 4th day in a row, let me know in the comments. As Osha Berth, the moderator, welcome everyone. It's great to see you again, Vask. Still not great, to be honest. Well, now I know I have diagnosed the issue, and it is an upload internet speed, right? So, give me some time. I've got a big deadline tomorrow, and then I will look into it for a different trial that's coming up. So anyway, this series of live streams every day, brought to you by me, right, is to promote the upcoming conference in Portland, Oregon, right? Hosted by Intact Global, the nonprofit that is funding constitutional litigation to challenge and ultimately with the goal of ending the non-religious forced genital cutting of minors, right? That practice where you hold down minors and you sever parts of their so it looks like our the video won't be great, but the sound will. Okay, well, what I can do, I'm gonna do a little live testing, and I know it's like, dude, come on, but this is the time you get for social media right now. We're going to plug in the Ethernet down here. We've got a whole operation going on. I mean, this is a new office, and obviously I haven't had the time to, change out the blinds yet. So my apologies. I had typed that before you mentioned the upload speed. Your content will still be just as important and appreciated. I appreciate that, Vask. See, we're still in the phases of the live stream. Let me know if it got better just now, because I plugged in my Ethernet, which you would think, okay, that would be better, but Spectrum, not totally clear. I think I might change providers, but that's a different issue. What matters is that we get together, those of us who are most passionate and able to really move the cause of protecting children from genital cutting forward. What's most important is that we work together to ensure that we as a society, both individually and collectively, stop cutting off parts of our infants at birth, right? And I know that that sounds like pretty obvious and almost silly to say it, but there needs to be a organized, highly efficient and competent effort to end this type of violence, right? And Intact Global can provide, right? And Intact Global is hosting its first conference, March 29 to 30 in Portland, Oregon. And Ocean Birth, who's the boss, says Spectrum sucks, and I'll look into it in the next coming days. I appreciate the input, but. So the conference, let me put the link below for those of you who are interested, who are able and willing to attend, is at intact.global/conference. Here we go. So definitely go to this link, and we'll walk through the actual conference schedule in a few minutes as more people tune in. But yeah, definitely, if you're here, post comments. Even if I'm not in high definition today, I am still an attorney, and I'm not necessarily your attorney, although I might be for some of you. watching the stream does not constitute an attorney-client relationship, right? Maybe when I'm in higher definition, but probably not. So, we will get as far as we can tonight. My last live streams were like an hour, 80 minutes, 100 minutes. And that's because we had a lot of great engagement, a lot of great questions, a lot of great comments. And I'm happy to stream for quite a while. At the same time, I've got, a lot of work to still do tonight. And, I started work in the morning. So like when I got up, so, running your own law firm and litigating, trials it's a hyper competitive sport, at least here. And I love it and I'm good at it. And it's a skill that translates well for the intactivist movement, because right now the strategy, it's not a secret strategy. Like I'm telling you exactly what we're doing is we are going to sue Oregon. That's the first state, but we'll sue as many states as we need to. And the legal theory is essentially this, right? We have a constitution that all state and federal laws need to comply with, right? You have the federal law that federal laws and state laws need to comply with. And then you have state constitutions, and those state laws need to comply with them too. And so essentially the legal theory is 41 states have what's called anti-female genital mutilation statutes on the books. And what those statutes do is they prohibit anyone from cutting the genitals of a baby girl for a non-medical reason, right? Oh, well, my culture or my aesthetic preference is that my girl's genitalia, baby girl's genitalia looks like, whatever my deity or personal preference is. And yeah, that's gross and it's bizarre and it sounds weird. But it's equally gross, bizarre, and weird to do it to a baby boy. And yet in this country, at least, you could literally sever large parts of baby boys' genitals with no consequence, no oversight, and no anesthesia. I mean, it is horrific, actually. And a lot of baby boys die. Like they all get injured because cutting off part of your body is injurious. But a lot of boys die. There's a fair number of complications where you lose more than just the intended 50% of the skin on the penis. So yeah, we're going to be challenging these anti-FGM laws on the basis that they discriminate on the basis of sex. And that would be called the constitutional challenge, because most state constitutions include prohibitions on sex-based discrimination. So next level intactivism. Yes, I did get your email, by the way. I just didn't have time. I have a big deadline tomorrow, and so I'll probably get to you on Wednesday. But yeah, I appreciate your patience. I do want to talk, but I have to work like well after this live stream, so it's just it's a difficult time right now. So yeah, so we're going to be suing various states on that constitutional theory, and the first one is going to be Oregon, and then we're going to move on to other states. Support permitting. That is, if the internet, all of you, and I know, it's like, dude, like, are you using like an iPhone 2? No, that's a great camera. It's just the upload speed is terrible. But internet, I'm counting on you to support this movement, because I know that there are many, 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 many millions of people who feel very strongly about this. I've seen some of the comments. But I appreciate that many people feel very strongly about this cause, and I am one of them. And my dog is nuzzling my foot, and he's one of them too. Or maybe he's just waiting for me to give him some of my leftover dinner. But anyway, but we need to have some organization, some coherence. We need to coalesce. And the nonprofit Intact Global is the best, well, not the best organization, but the one who's kind of, okay, let's get together and start suing these states. And GALDEF also has a similar mission, and they support other intactivist litigation, which is great. Intaction is actually bringing bills to various states to defund circumcision for Medicaid. So that is incredibly important work as well. So, those two organizations are going to be well represented there by their presidents and probably other people. So another reason to come to the conference, intactglobal.org/events. or intact.global/conference. And as next level intactivism, I appreciate you getting my message. But yeah, we're definitely we'll get in touch later this week. And I'm going to review the materials you sent me. I'm just, I'm doing as much as I can at present. And I appreciate you, Big Yoshi, that the bit rate is improving every day, right? Because right now, this whole stream is being supported by this guy, which is, not my internet provider. And so if it's better now, it's because I'm literally tethering through my phone. But my upload speeds would range from 0.5 megabits to 20 megabits. And but it's super inconsistent. So I was actually looking at Starlink today for 5 minutes, and I just was like, look, I don't have time to do this right now. But on Wednesday, I will do whatever is necessary to get this stream where it needs to be, and that includes replacing these hideous curtains, because come on. And I appreciate some of the support here. We might be, I should run for president. Well, look, here's the plan. You heard it here first. We end the genital mutilation of children in the next couple years, and then I will be old enough to run for president in the next cycle, right? I wouldn't be, old enough to run anyways, and I don't really have the support or the clout. But if we end the genital mutilation of children, that's that's a great platform, is protecting children from harm. And in this case, it's all. Hi, friends. Be right back. I'm sharing this link with the Discord servers. That is great. I know there's a healthy community of intactivists on Discord, and there is on Reddit as well. And I love to hear from all of them. And like I mentioned before, I would be posting on Reddit every day, but I'm working 14 hours a day doing litigation for the most part. And I have a great office manager and a great paralegal, but they're new, and so I got to onboard them, and it's kind of which is great, but there's a transactional cost or a switching cost to get someone up to speed. But they're very smart and capable, and I've got a brilliant co-counsel too, and he doesn't need help getting up to speed, which is great. Anyway, so I see that we have the presidential. I think "Clopper for Congress" is a great little tagline, actually. Now, if I don't know if it'd be possible. It would be technically possible to run for president in the next cycle, but let's focus on this cause first. I really do think, although if I were to run for office, and it could be Congress, that's actually achievable, especially if I win this next trial. I could bankroll that. Although all support is appreciated. Is when you're in Congress, you have a platform. It's baked into the position, and you can't get fired, right? Unless you do something egregious or illegal. It's the same as being an attorney. You can lose your license, but for the most part, it's not I said something and it upset somebody. It's called the First Amendment. And although universities sometimes profess to honor it, in my experience, they certainly do not, which is, which we kind of knew was going to happen anyway. But as Oshaberg said, please share the conference link to your social media as well. And this is the easy conference link right here, intact.global/conference, right? So share that link right there. Super easy to remember, Intact Global Conference, but there's a dot between the first words and /conference. And then, oh, I see. Okay, I gotcha. There's two different types. So we're streaming on a bunch of different platforms. Okay, let's see. So Vask said some comments, and then we'll go back to the conference pitch. My wife had a 5G T-Mobile router for work. Oh, I'm getting a call right now. Never mind. My wife had a 5G T-Mobile router for work, and it was very consistent. Starlink is good, but it could be patchy, which is not what you want while streaming. See, what I really need is a high upload speed, right? And I'll pay for 2 internet providers if I have to. And as Brandon said, if we could get someone like you in a position of power, it would actually make a difference. I would help for free. With Brandon, I love you for that. And we definitely, that's definitely in the, it is information, right? It is a plan. Let's nail it at the conference, right? We're gonna have a great big conference. It's gonna be beautifully filmed. There's gonna be great presentations, perfect networking, and then and I read the latest version of the complaint lately, largely updated by my law clerk at UVA, who is brilliant, and it is breathtaking in both its emotional and legal appeal, right? There's a lot of strong case law in Oregon that suggests, well, one, you can't discriminate on the basis of sex, and even things that are far less different than, like, you can't cut the foreskin of a baby girl, but you can amputate the foreskin of a baby boy, right? Those are very analogous harms, and there's no constitutional justification to discriminate, to say, oh, girls are protected, but boys are not. So anyway, and as Brandon said, most men would get behind you. You see, as someone who lost his job and career at Harvard for this cause, which, I was happy to do, it's not something you fake, right? It's like, okay, you believe what you say, which is true. And I never sold my soul, and that's what's important. And that's what we want in our elected officials. And also, I can get stuff done. And the first thing we're going to get done is this conference, which you should all attend. And then we're going to sue Oregon. And, ideally, we're going to sue a bunch of other states. And so we have 455 Buick. Welcome to the stream. Happy to have you. Prevail over the system. Good to see my anonymous friend. We appreciate your covering the movement. LOL, Eric Klopper awakens the YouTube intact community. That channel was dead for like 3 years. Awaken the YouTube. Okay. Oh, you mean like the intact community on YouTube, but no longer. Well, put it this way. My goal is to do a live stream every day up until the conference. And, I got deadlines tomorrow and I'm still here. Like, I'm not going to miss them, but, I'm going to work till midnight and it's not going to be fun. And I'll show you one of my secrets, which probably reduces my lifespan, but, you got to do what you got to do, and it's not illegal. Bryce O'Brien, as an Oregonian, I am fully with you. I love that you're with me and also that you're from Oregon, because that's where we're starting, baby. There were 6 states. It was on my old website. 6 states that we wanted to start in. It was Colorado, Delaware, Oregon, Rhode Island, maybe, and I forget the others. But this is where the plaintiffs came from. I didn't pick Oregon. Oregon picked itself, right? It's a perfect state, has a very low circumcision rate. They march their own drummer. So what I'm going to say is, Bryce, wherever you happen to be in Oregon, definitely, get a ticket, and hopefully you don't even need to get a hotel room because you're within driving distance of Portland. So for those of you who don't know, here is the link to the conference right there, right? So go to intact.global/conference and we'll check it out in a few minutes to see who the lineup of speakers are. We might have a few other speakers come through. But yeah, we've got 8 lawyers who are on the forefront of the movement. We've got the president of GALDEF, Tim Hammond, the president of Intaction, Tony Lasquardo. We've got the executive director of Doctors Opposing Circumcision, who I guess is included in the 8 lawyers, but nevertheless. Oh, and definitely subscribe to my channel. The aspiration is 10,000 subscribers before the conference. And, if you're sharing this on the Discord channels, on the Reddit channels, wherever intactivists gather as well, in the bathhouses, I don't know. Oh no, you're in Portland, but out of town. Well, email me, Bryce, at eric@klopper.com if you want to help promote it. Also, tell your friends in the area. And NLI, I will get back to you in the near future, like later this week, because we're going to talk about your database and how we're going to, promote this. And I hope you make the conference as well. Daniel, I'd love to see you there. So, but yeah, so Can you brief us on the lawsuit's simple terms? What are we talking? What are the talking points for writing letters? All right, simple terms. Oh, okay, there we go. So this lawsuit is seeking a judicial declaration that Oregon's anti-female genital mutilation statute is unconstitutional because it discriminates on the basis of sex, right? And if we get a judicial declaration, essentially a judge says this is wrong because it violates Oregon's constitution, which prohibits discriminating on the basis of sex. So if we get a judicial declaration to that effect, what it does is it puts the legislature on notice, the body in Oregon that creates the laws, and says, look, you have to correct Oregon revised statute, I think 163.207, the anti-FGM statute. You need to make this constitutional, you need to protect all children without regard to their sex at birth, right? And the judge has a lot of leeway in how this declaration is crafted, but once we file the lawsuit, there's going to be some resolution. And what's likely to happen is if it's on the trial court, it probably will get kicked up to the appellate court. So you have the trial court in every state, and you have the appellate court, which is 3 judges on a panel. And then they kind of decide the laws that the trial court has to follow. And if various appellate courts decide something differently, or it's a really important question of law, it goes up to the Supreme Court. And there's those 3 levels, right? Trial, appellate, Supreme. And sounds like a Subway sandwich, right? And so if you make it up to the Supreme, they really decide what the law is. And the only people who can overrule the Supreme Court is the legislature, right? Like checks and balances. And then the executive is out there, in our case, shooting from the hip. But no, he's supposed to execute the laws. He doesn't make the laws. Although most Americans think he does, that is actually not true. Fun fact. So, Paul, I hope that answered your question. We're looking for a judicial declaration that it is unconstitutional to only protect baby girls from genital cutting, right? And if we get that declaration, then essentially what it does is it kicks that statute back to the legislature to remedy it by, ideally, what we're advocating is protecting all children no matter their sex, right? We're going to equally protect all children from genital cutting. Right now, if there's like a pressing medical need, which is hard to even think of, right? Because there's no body part that you should amputate. You always, the correct medical course of action in 99+% of cases is whatever's most conservative. And amputation is probably, the most radical next to like, euthanasia, right? So anyway, so as prevail over this, and let me know, Paul, if that answers your question. I'm happy to get more into it. And I encourage everyone to read the complaint once it's filed. I mean, once you read the first 4-page introduction, you'll be like, whoa, I agree. What can we do to stop this? So anyway, Intact Community just posted a video about you after 3 years of silence. So Intact Community is like a channel, which is great. I didn't know if it was like, like a community, like a Reddit subreddit or something. Have you created any short videos to push out there for growth advertisement? I think trying to create a short video to spread on the socials could help this movement gain attention. So Vask, what I'm doing now, and again, it's an iterative process right now. Like my stream is probably not perfect, I'm aware. It's getting better though. So I've been posting a reel every day for 2 whole days on Instagram. And what I'll probably start doing is posting that on TikTok as well. And I will continue to post short videos on all, certainly on Instagram, because that's keyed up. I could probably do it on TikTok as well. I need to implement systems to do this, and I have some support, but I need to kind of get them up to speed. So it's in the works, right? But I also have to work till midnight, and I got a deadline tomorrow, and then I got other stuff that's got to go out. So yeah. So yes, Fast, it's in the works. So, and as Oshabro says, definitely subscribe to my channel, right? We're trying to get 10K before the conference. It's a totally achievable goal. And for those of you who are just tuning in, we're promoting Intact Global's first conference, March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. You can get tickets at intact.global/conference. And there you're going to hear from leaders of the movement. And we're going to have 2 days of presentation, a beautiful reception in the Sentinel Hotel where all the presentations are, which is, has deep history in Portland, beautiful hotel, high-end catering. For a hotel, it's about as good as you get. And it's not like the Ritz-Carlton where it's expensive for the sake of being expensive. It's, it's about in the Marriott, Hilton, range. And then we're going to have a great founders dinner for those of you who want to spring for it. And then on Monday morning, March 31st, we're renting out the Courtyard Square in Portland. And we're going to file the lawsuit and then have speeches from, lawyers, plaintiffs, doctors, and a few other people of interest to say, this is why this historic lawsuit is so important in this trailblazing. Going back here, let's see. There's a lot of comments. Oh, Daniel, you're hoping to make it. I hope to see you there, and we'll talk later this week. That's my aspiration. How do I clip that? Great explanation. I don't know how to download a 2-hour stream. Well, that's a great question. If I look at my my device, like I'm pretty high def, but when I was looking at the old streams today for the first time, I realized it looks like a 16-bit video game. So I think you could download these and send them out, and maybe I'll make that available at some point. I don't have the cycles to do that right now. You could do a screen cap. You have my permission, but I'm not 100% sure how to do that easily right now. But it's something we'll look into. And I think Opus, like things like that, they'll take a long form content, clip it up into short form, and maybe we do that every day, right? We start blasting social media. Attorney Klopper is on the case to end the genital mutilation of children. And the more social media content you put out, the more like, oh, that's the dude, right? So anyway, that's definitely an option. I appreciate the great explanation too. So prevail over the system. Our anonymous intactivist friend. The best thing I was ever called by an intactivist leader was Roger Rabbit of intactivism. So is that like the best thing, or was that the second best thing now? I think Roger Rabbit, that's a little funnier. Gregory Malchuk, great to see you again. Is there any case history of state-level equal protection suits over FGM laws? I remember an interview of Svoboda or Llewellyn saying they were premature, but the bids are almost 20 years old. So, maybe they were premature 20 years ago, but I was also 12 years old at the time, and I probably couldn't challenge it. Right? We've come a long way, and the millennials are adults now, and we're much less receptive to the idea of infant genital mutilation. It's just kind of the generational thing right now. So maybe it was premature 20 years ago, but I don't think now. And even if we don't win every lawsuit, we don't have to, right? The first lawsuit, we're forcing the conversation. And if I have to sue 40 states, I will. I mean, I'm counting on you, Internet, to really kind of, blow these streams up, right? We need to, this stream is just one of many different things. The conference is really the big event in the immediate future, March 29 to 31. But there's one lawsuit, Greg, and it's a great question, in the 90s, right? So we're pushing 30 years ago, where a lawyer who will be speaking at the conference, tried to challenge a state FGM law using the federal constitution. I think it was in federal court, and typically you can't sue states in federal court because of sovereign immunity. So that was one, that was one way you could kick it on a technicality, and I think it was. There may have been a standing issue as well. Essentially the judges didn't want to deal with it. Thankfully in Oregon, there is a statute that gives plaintiffs standing if their rights are violated. If a statute violates their right, you can get declaratory relief. If a statute violates their constitutional right, in this case, the equal protection. So you have to look at the different statutes in the different states, but you're going to get farther suing states using state constitutions. That's where a lot of progressive causes come. So yeah. So anyway, going back to the purpose of this stream, not just to see all you beautiful people, but definitely get your tickets at intact.global/conference. Go to that link, check out the conference, check out the events. It's $200, which It doesn't even cover the cost of the 2 lunches, the receptions, the coffees, the refreshments. It's a nice place too, and plus you'll get to network with all the pretty much a huge portion of the leaders of the movement. And then we get to Sue Oregon at the end in the Courtyard Square. It's going to be a nice press conference. It's going to be great. It really is. It's going to be like it. It is the beginning of the end for our movement. It is a historic moment where we really seriously challenge in the adult institutions the routine genital mutilation of infants, which is just, it's horrific that we're still dealing with this, but it is what it is. So Brandon, my man, have you ever talked to RFK Jr. about the cause or even Trump? Well, unfortunately, I don't have their contact information, although I do know a few people who do, not Trump's, but the other one. And, I think it's a cause that he's open-minded about challenging dogma, right? And he definitely wants to protect the health of children. So, I'm big fan of RFK Jr. In that respect, 100%. So I'm hoping that if he takes a sober look at this and says, what's the best thing to do for children, he's going to defund, you don't have to ban it or make it illegal. RFK Jr., he just needs to stop using taxpayer dollars to perform medically unnecessary amputations on children that harm them for life and violate their rights to bodily autonomy. I mean, it's so simple and easy, and it's definitely in line with the administration's ethos of cutting wasteful spending, like spending taxpayer dollars to amputate parts of children's bodies. That's totally nuts. So, and as you said, Brandon, even someone like Elon seems like he would get behind it, as I mentioned. Yeah, and he's probably intact. I mean, I have no idea. But if you are, you're just more aware of the value of that tissue, right? Sean Kelly at Eric Clopper, would be beneficial to unite with pro-life org. Is that a specific organization or just like the general vibe of it? Well, put it this way. This is a nonpartisan issue that everyone can get behind, right? Because we want to protect children, and we want to protect children. No children are getting circumcised in utero. And obviously the beliefs and the laws are changing on that issue, but I'm a single issue voter, guys, right? And so if organizations want to support Intact Global and our affiliated coalition like GALDEF, Intaction, you name it, and protecting children from genital cutting, then, I'm down. So B, after legislation is passed, how would enforcement work? Well, let's take Oregon, for example. I'm pretty familiar with the legislative history and the statute. So if you circumcise a girl in Oregon, it's a criminal offense, and the district attorney can indict you and try to prove that you're guilty of this crime, right? But as the legislative body said when they passed this, I believe in 99, they said, look, female genital cutting is already illegal even if we don't pass this law, ORS 163207. It is already illegal, but this law is a statement of our values as a society, right? And that's why it's so important that we have a similar statement for our boys, because right now our statement of values is we only protect female minor children, and that's messed up. We should protect all children. That should not be a controversial opinion, and I don't think it is. It's just, when you start bringing in religious, the religious belief that my God requires me to mutilate my infant. Well, some people who believe that are in positions of extreme power. And I kind of ran up against them when I criticized the practice at Harvard, right? Which is fine. We're not even going that route. So, it could even just be right now as a first step, I would take just a statement of values that we don't circumcise infants. And right now, it's already unlawful to perform medically unnecessary surgeries, and it's fraudulent as well. I think a civil remedy would be great too. So if a doctor performs a surgery on an infant and there was no medical need, well, you could sue that doctor until you're 18. Usually the statute of limitations is told, and then it goes for longer. I mean, you could also impose criminal penalties as well, but, we don't have to go overboard in the beginning. Why kick it back to the legislature? They should be invalidating the FGM laws until they come up with a gender-neutral version. Well, you know, what I think Vermont did, and we can fact check this, if what I think Vermont did, and we can fact check this, is when they challenged marriage equality, this is what I was told from another lawyer of mine who's very involved in that space, but I didn't fact check it, is the judge said, look, you legislature, you've got 6 months or 2 years to fix this. And so I'm going to issue like, you know, an order that in 2 years that the law is invalid or something. So there's no reason to force, you know, one, we don't want to remove protections from baby girls. Now, the reality is female genital mutilation is already illegal on a federal level. So no matter what you do, the state law, it's still illegal. And two, it's not really practiced in the vast majority of American communities anyway. So, you know, it's more of a statement of values, which is what the Oregon legislature said. And I'm sure other legislatures did too, although I haven't really gotten into the details of those because it costs $700 to buy legislative history. And also it takes a very long time. So once we identify our next state, we'll buy the legislative history, we'll analyze it, because for judges, it is persuasive for the judge to understand, well, why did the legislature pass the law? Because then the judge can, let's say, the judge can give effect to the intent of the legislature, which is one of the things that judges are supposed to do. So anyway, so that's why. Intact Community is Jordan Arell, who I know well, and he was a legend helping me promote the Harvard performance back in 2018. I flew him, I think, from Colorado to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and you know, he was on the ground, you know, promoting it big time. So he's an absolute legend, and I'm happy to hear he's making content again. As Greg said, Yoshi doctors would become mandatory reporters for MGM during annual school physical examinations. You know, I never had a school examination where, you know, a nurse or anyone checked out my junk. So I don't know how applicable that is, but you know, let's take this one step at a time, and we'll see where we get. Cosmic Fertilizer. Is there any way to get these kinds of lawsuits in Canada too? How is this going to work? Well, how is this going to work? It's the same in Canada. Well, Canada, I'm pretty sure, has a common law system. If anyone wants to correct me, you can. But essentially, it's the same way. So Canada does have a. I'm just emailing. Does have a constitutional requirement that you can't discriminate on the basis of sex, right? And I think they do, and they do have an anti-FGM law. So you need a Canadian lawyer to, you know, get standing for the plaintiff, and there might be a specific statute that gives standing. I'm not totally sure in Canada. I mean, it takes a lot of research to figure these out, right? And so, I mean, I'm happy to opine just kind of off the hip. But you find standing, you find a plaintiff who was cut without consent, wants to challenge the law. You do the same thing that we're doing in Oregon, but you do it in Canada, right? John Atkinson, I made this one. Looking forward to seeing people in Portland. John, happy to have you here. Happy to see you in Portland. You know, welcome to the stream. I hear that the stream is pretty low quality due to my low upload speed, but we're working on it. As I've mentioned many times, I'm working like a dog over here in my, you know, trying to keep the law firm afloat. And so, but the stream is super important, and the lawsuit and the conference is super important. So for those of you, so you know what John Atkinson's talking about is, I'm hoping to see you at the conference, right? And the conference link, and we'll go over that soon, is intact.global/conference is where you can get tickets. You know, tickets still available, intact.global/conference, although we're selling like a fair number now. These streams are working. I'm very pleased about it. And so, yeah, definitely attend the conference. It's where a lot of the leaders of the movement are going to be. We're going to have 8 lawyers give talks: the president of GALDEF, president of Intaction, the executive director of Doctors Opposing Circumcision. We're all in the coalition to end the genital cutting of children, right? So anyway, oh, and Maddie, great to see you again. You know, I remember, and also Paul, you're going to email me. Yeah, totally fair. We've been on for 40 minutes. We'll probably wrap up kind of soon. And Maddie, most people who become intactivists are those who learn the history of circumcision. That is how I became an intactivist as well. So I grew up in a Jewish background, and I just thought, oh, it's of course it's better, it's Jewish, right? Which is like super ignorant. But you're raised, you're a product of your culture to an extent, and then when you become an adult, you gotta take a. So what is it? Intelligence is learning, and wisdom is unlearning, right? And so you gotta unlearn a lot of the lies that you were raised with, right? Maybe they were well-meaning. It's hard to believe that mutilating an infant is well-meaning, but maybe it was. A lot of parents don't see what they do in hospitals, so they don't actually see how gruesome it is to restrain an infant and sever his genitals, right? They just think it's like, oh, give him a shot, give him a, shoot some stuff in his, like some eye drops in his eyes. No, it's like, cut off 50% of skin on his penis. It's nuts. So anyway, yeah, I learned in the history, these rabbis were saying, no, it damages the sexual pleasure. It makes it worse for women too. It's supposed to hurt the infant. And I'm thinking, these rabbis aren't lying, 1,000, 2,000 years ago when they were doing the same thing. And so that's how I kind of got, you could say, red pilled on it. I became aware that, the mainstream narrative, which has fallen apart, mind you, in the last 10 years, but how the mainstream narrative was total nonsense, which again, the entire world doesn't circumcise their kids with the exception of, Muslim Islam and some parts of Africa, but Europe, Asia, Australia, South America, they're not cutting their babies. The Middle East, where they're literally in constant war, are also constantly mutilating their men, right? So, is there a correlation? Absolutely. Is there a causation? I would wager on it. So anyway, moving on. I come from the foreskin restoration into intactivism. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. Why let's spare the kids unnecessary pain and harm. And I'm continually aghast at this continuing constitutional crisis. Me too, Mark. Me too. And we're going to actually do something about that. We're going to sue Oregon on March 31st. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be at the end of Intact Global's first conference, probably annual conference. If we get a ton of support, maybe we'll host it more than once a year, right? Like, this is the purpose of this, is to do this as quickly as possible. This is not a lifelong mission for me. Like, this is a 2-year mission, really. I think that this can be done in the immediate future, but it requires you internet support, right? So anyway, who will have standing in these suits, especially the Oregon suits, adults born and cut after the FGM law passed? Parents of such kids, is there any statute of limitations on civil rights violations? Well, these are all great questions, Gregory. And as I mentioned earlier, in Oregon, there's a specific statute that gives standing to people whose rights are violated. Statutes, and the relief is a declaration that essentially declares or explains why that statute violates the Constitution. I mean, that statute, I think it's 28.020, gives many different types of remedies, many different types of people standing. But one of those types of people is our 5 plaintiffs, right? And our lead plaintiff is 17 years old, which means in Oregon, at least, the statute of limitation hasn't even told a single day because he's still a minor, right? Different states have different statute of limitation laws, and they have different standing laws. So every state, you need to look at the statutory scheme. What statutes apply? What gives standing? What is the statute of limitations? Also, when the anti-FGM law was passed, as you pointed out, Greg, because let's say the anti-FGM law was passed in the year 2000, but you were born in 92 like me. Well, what you could argue, if you're the state and you don't want to deal with it on a motion to dismiss, is even if everything the plaintiff says is true, well, that he's not harmed from that statute, or he was, he didn't avoid harm because he was born before baby girls were protected from genital cutting. So all children could be genitally cut in 92. And so, he wasn't harmed by the discriminatory nature of the statute because that statute wouldn't have protected him in 1992 anyways, because it didn't exist, right? So that's why we prefer to have plaintiffs who were born after the anti-FGM law was passed. But if we have one or more, then we can add plaintiffs, because what's the purpose of dismissing a few plaintiffs if you still have your, even one plaintiff makes a lawsuit, but if you have more, it just shows you have more support, right? And as NLI says, class action tort lawsuits, perhaps medical defendants, hospitals, doctors, insurers, they pay essentially as infinite amount of money to very large law firms to essentially be very difficult in litigating. Could I fight those? My law firm, the Klopper law firm, yes. But the reality is, if we fight those lawsuits, then we can fight less of the other lawsuits. So we're trying to fight what is has the most emotional resonance, right? And protecting all children, no matter their gender. That's a good message, and we think it'll resonate with the public. So they said the same thing about FGM in Washington, still passed. What do you mean by that? They said the same thing. Anyway, they said the same statement about FGM, that it was, well, and also, we can look up when, the next stream, I have the spreadsheet from GALDEF, so thank you, John, of when every law passed their anti-FGM law. So anyway, as NLI says, with egregious bodily harm, a class A felony. Yeah, well, the reality is, perhaps, I think as a rational, so there's a word in the legal community called mayhem, which is serious amputation and maiming of a body part. And so that circumcision would technically, by any rational analysis, be mayhem, right? But if we were to apply this, accurate but inflammatory label, is it going to be productive? Because, you can't, we could do what we can to help the people who've been cut and lost a big part of their penis. But the reality is, what we want to do is what's most effective to protect children moving forward. So we're gonna use the language that is most effective. I mean, I'm sure that opponents are probably going to parse every word I say and say, "Oh, well, he said this," and it's like, whatever, dude. I'm okay with it. Sexual battery of a minor, absolutely. The federal anti-FGM law could still get labeled unconstitutional. You're totally right, and it could, and very well maybe, but it's not going to happen before state laws do. The federal government almost never is leading, on the, if other states had already declared anti-FGM laws as unconstitutional because they only protect one class of children, then the federal government will step in. But there's a book, and I don't have my library in my new office yet, but it's called 51 Constitutions by Jeff Sutton. I could get the title wrong, but I had the judge's name right. Essentially, he explains how a lot of progressive causes happen on a state-by-state basis. Marriage equality, decriminalizing cannabis are the two big ones that come to mind, but women's rights as well, and also civil rights, right? Like Massachusetts, where I'm from, slavery was straight up illegal for a very long time before it became illegal federally. So there definitely could be declared unconstitutional, but we're going to have to win some states first, John. That's why we're suing Oregon, and I'm happy to meet you there in person for the first time. Daniel, what about creating a law-based AI agent that can inspect all of these potential avenues? Well, that is a very good idea. I'm a big AI buff, and I have my clients sign provisions essentially saying that I'm going to use AI. So essentially what we could do, and I don't think it's there yet, the commercial versions, although the enterprise, Elon Musk versions or a different creature, is we could have AI agents specialize in various state laws and state, and then the jurisprudence of that state. And we could take the form complaint we have in Oregon and say, okay, now do this for Colorado. Okay, now do this for Delaware. Okay, do it for New Hampshire, now Texas. These are all things. These are all things that that we could do. So I was just getting a notification from my bank saying, "Did you authorize this check?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I did actually." The trials are expensive. But I don't think we're there yet. But if you can program the AI to do that, and once the complaint is filed, March 31st, that's a pretty good template copy and paste to other states. Although, I don't know if the AI has the context window, I believe it's called, to really be as effective as a great lawyer. So if judges start threatening to invalidate FGM laws, legislatures might simply stop defending FGM laws in favor of using generic assault, battery, and mayhem charges against FGM, but not MGM. Well, that assumes that legislatures are hostile to, those of us who are trying to stop MGM, which is not the case at all. Like in New Hampshire, there's a bipartisan body that is trying to defund the genital cutting of baby boys, right? There is affirmative support for our cause in Massachusetts. And I've spoken to representatives who were also supportive as well. And I've spoken to representatives who, once I brought the topic up, they're like, oh, I can't hear you, right? This was before being a lawyer. So, I have a little more, pay attention to me or I can make things painful type vibe about me. But so, yeah, essentially, I disagree. I mean, yeah, it's certainly possible, but I disagree that's going to happen. The culture is moving towards where we are already, right? And a lot of legislators are sympathetic to protecting all children. The only reason a lot of them didn't is because of professional risk or funding risk. I think APAC funds an incredible number of politicians, and they haven't issued a policy statement on circumcision, but there's a lot of emotional and religious content behind the continued mutilation of children in that community. I know because I was raised in it, right? But that's an issue for a different time. Can there be, so Gregory Malchek, you're looking for the MVP of today's stream. I think yesterday was Owen. I didn't announce that, and the day before was Jumbie, and I see Jumbie's here too, which is great. He's a legend. I just stepped on my dog because I have some food over here, and he's like waiting to see if I'll give him some or give him some more. But so can there be equal protection lawsuits over the unequal application of nominally gender neutral assault, battery, and mayhem charges against FGM but not MGM? Can there be equal protection lawsuits over the unequal application? Maybe, but I think that the prosecution of FGM laws is vanishingly rare, right? Like I heard of one in Michigan in 2018. I'm pretty, let's say, attuned to what's going on in this movement legally. So if there's a lot of FGM prosecution, I feel like I would hear about it. And prosecutors have what's called prosecutorial discretion. So it's hard to challenge that. I'm not saying it's impossible. So I'm not sure. So 4-5, in all likelihood, they'll just rewrite FGM laws again. That's what they did in 2018 after the federal judge kicked it, saying essentially a Muslim doctor cut baby girl for no medical purpose, her genitals, and then the Michigan district attorney prosecuted, and the doctor who cut the baby prevailed because the argument was, hey, it's not what, mutilating a baby girl, that's not right or wrong. It's just the federal government doesn't have the constitutional authority to outlaw this type of criminal conduct. And that's a pretty good constitutional argument. And when I heard that, and before I went to law school, although I was applying, I was outraged. But how our system of laws works is the federal government doesn't have the authority to outlaw criminal conduct that is local to the state, right? Like there's typically not a federal law against murder per se, right? If it's interstate murder. But so just because you're performing a crime, that's up to the state to outlaw it. That's really kind of how it works. But yeah, state legislatures could rewrite FGM laws again, but I'm counting on some brave and intelligent legislators. We're in a different era. Thank you, everyone, for making your voice known. I appreciate the input and the engagement. It's great. And as John is saying, he agrees with Gregory Malchak. Laws mean nothing without the will to enforce. Well, in Oregon, female genital mutilation was already illegal when they passed it. It was already prosecutable offense, as they said, but it was a statement of values. So that's not true. Laws do mean something. They are a statement of a society's values, right? And so when we defund it, that is a statement of value that we don't think it's beneficial enough to use taxpayer money on. When we outlaw it, that is a statement of value that it is affirmatively bad to cut a baby boy, right? With no medical purpose. So, even if people aren't straight up prosecuted, it is very important to have these laws. So Jumbi, I would like to leverage the antipathy Republicans, conservatives have towards trans people having female to male and male to female surgery in a way that demonstrates it's not much different than circumcision. Well, what I'm going to do once my streams are higher definition and I'm not working 14 hours a day on my upcoming trial, what I'll do is I'll probably identify some helpful language in Trump's executive order that was targeted towards restricting transitioning surgeries, and essentially identify how that's helpful for our movement. Like I said before, the president doesn't make the laws, so how let's say enforceable are those executive orders? Well, since he's got a majority in the House and the Senate, they're more enforceable than they would be otherwise. Now, this here is called ketone IQ, and it has nothing to do with intactivism, except that I drink them and it gives me energy. So if you heard of the keto diet, instead of metabolizing glucose, if you don't eat carbs, your body will metabolize fat, adipose cells, and turn it into ketones. It's kind of like glucose gives you energy. Well, I eat carbs. And so what this does, essentially, it's a straight up bioavailable source of ketones, and it tastes god awful, but it works. And I actually met the guy who developed this, Lat Mansour, very smart PhD in, I don't know, something in, body mechanics or whatever, something physiological. And anyway, from Oxford, and it works very well. It tastes terrible, but it gets me through when you have to work 14, 16-hour days. But yeah, so getting back to what's important is ketones. Is the conference, right? Because what we're really here for every day, more or less, we'll see if there are days where I just straight up can't do it, but I'm pretty on top of my stuff, is we are meeting leading intactivists, the forefront of the movement. Well, I guess there's also a leading intactivist movement in DC, a protest movement, but at least the leading lawyers of the movement, 8 lawyers, myself included, the president or the executive director of Doctors Opposing Circumcision, president of GALDEF, the president of Intaction. We're all going to be in Portland, Oregon. So go to intact.global/conference. I am going to pull that up on my street. Oh wow, I'm looking at the Instagram, and my definition is super high. But if we go to intact.global/conference, we're going to run through what we have in store, because I really hope that everyone here on the stream goes to this link and joins us in Portland. So if I present my screen, we're going to share a screen. Yep. I want to share an entire screen. This guy right here. So here we have, let's see if this works. There we go. So 2025, March 29th to 31. So that is a Saturday through a Monday in Portland, Oregon. And we are at the conference. We're going to launch our first constitutional challenge, right? We're going to unveil the specific plan as how we're going to end the forced non-religious genital cutting of children in the immediate future. And of course, that depends on you, Internet. All of you watching at home, this has been something that I've been working on for a very long time. And obviously leaders in the movement working on for some of 50 plus years, right? But we're at a point in this movement where we could flip this very quickly. There's a lot of movement socially, and that could be very helpful for this movement. And so at the conference, right? Maddie, it looks like you're going to be there as well. That's epic. looking forward to meeting you, Maddie. Definitely, come say hi. So we're going to have the lawsuit announcement, which is March 31st, right? So that's free. So if you, definitely register for free. And even if you can't make it, we're going to live stream. We're going to film everything. The tickets are $200, which again, we're hosting this at the Sentinel Hotel, which is like much nicer than a Marriott or a Hilton. I know, because I flew to Portland. I got my butt on a plane, flew to Portland, and checked out 10 different venues, right, with my lead videographer, lead volunteer in Oregon. And we picked the Sentinel because it has deep history, high class, very classy. I think the best hotel catering probably in the city of Portland. It's actually excellent, Jake's Catering. And so we're going to have a beautiful reception there, 2 days of presentations, a nice founders dinner if you want to spring for that. And, at least a couple lunches too, right? And we're going to have, and at this conference, you're going to see leading lawyers, activists, and thought leaders for 2 full days of presentations, networking, and strategic planning. So if this is a cause that you're passionate about, and if you're one of the 70 plus people who are joining my live stream an hour in and still listening to me promote this conference, you are in this category, right? Talking to you, baby. Then this is definitely a place you want to be. And also you're going to get a full swag bag too. I'm not wearing it today, but it comes with this hat, Intact Global shirt, and a canvas bag. But here's the lineup right now. It's subject to minor change, but so, I'll give a talk in the beginning. Then we've got Joe McCormick, who's Intact Global's treasurer, lifetime activist, very smart guy. Good friend of mine, Shay Johnson, who also lives, in my neighborhood, same zip code at least. Then Will Wong, who I've known for a long time, who's brilliant at online marketing, made the whole Intact Global website real. And then we'll have a panel where you can ask, okay, Intact Global, how are you going to win? What is the plan? This conference is, I should say, this is not a conference where we convince you that circumcision is bad, that you shouldn't mutilate your infant at birth, right? We all agree that, how do we stop it? And how do we stop it in the immediate future, right? So that's the purpose. A friend of mine, Carter Steinhoff, very knowledgeable on the topic. He may give this talk. And then we have Tim Hammond, who is the executive director at GALDEF. And they are a great networking organization. They also support various different legal initiatives, including the Oregon one. So anyway, and then we have John Geishiker. And so his talk is going to be something named different. And he told me to keep it under wraps, but I've seen the outline. It's brilliant. It's definitely a very timely strategic strategy from the leader of Doctors Opposing Circumcision, who I've got a great relationship with. And you can see there's a video on our channel where we talk for about 40 minutes. And then we have Michael Abanika, who I've hosted at my house a few times. He's a attorney from Uganda. He's the absolute man. He's brilliant. And he's also on the forefront of human rights campaigns and litigation all over Africa, not just in Uganda, although he's definitely a very heavyweight attorney in Uganda, right? You fly into Uganda and they've got the world's biggest highway from the airport, but it had no lights. It's just pitch black. Well, it's lit up now because of Michael. But anyway, so he'll be there and he'll give a talk on his work in Africa and how we're going to make international alliance to protect children from this type of harm. Then on Sunday, and all this is in the Sentinel, which is a beautiful venue. We have the president of Intaction, who will be giving a talk likely about his efforts in defunding circumcision from state Medicaid, successful efforts that are going to a vote, and we'll have some resolution there. So, if you want to get your ticket, go to intact.global/conference. Then we have Zena Sparer, who was on the forefront of this movement about 30 years ago. But as I think Gregory Melchek said, it was too early 30 years ago, right? It was not time, unfortunately, though it should have been, to stop the genital cutting of children. It is time now. And then Peter Adler, who's my of counsel at the Klopper Law Firm, brilliant litigator, has been a law professor at multiple universities, and he'll be talking about the various legal rights that circumcision violates, right? The right to be left alone, the right not to have doctors take advantage of their position of trust by performing unnecessary procedures and enriching themselves in the process. Brad Kane was my former boss, right? He's a brilliant tactical political mind, right? John Siller, who got me into law, also brilliant president of American Institute of Bisexuality. And then Deborah, who texted me earlier today, who's going to have a great talk on how she grew up in a conservative Jewish household and how she became aware that this was such a huge problem harming Jewish children, right? Because, it's harming, the great majority of boys. Thankfully it's only about 50%, but it was 90%. I'll give a final talk, and here are all the speakers, right? But there's going to be, many dozens of other very committed intactivists. And then for those of you who want to spring for it, there's not actually a ton of seats left, actually, which makes me happy. But we have a founders dinner in the Multnomah Whiskey Library. It's a few blocks away. It's this beautiful, cool, quaint underground speakeasy whiskey lounge. And so that's also part fundraiser as well. So the tickets are priced to help Intact Global move the mission along. And then if we get enough demand, I'd love to do this, the champagne brunch after the press conference on Monday. But again, and if we don't, we'll refund you. But I do think we're going to do it. And I think it's going to be a great victory cruise, right? It's going to be fun. And that's the conference, top to bottom. And it's going to be a great event. And I'm very excited about it. And if you've made it this far, you should go. It's going to be historic. It is where the movement kicks off, because this movement has a lot of emotional content, a lot of truth behind it. It is clearly the right and the just thing, but we don't have the right organization and execution. And that's what Intact Global brings to the movement. And that's all we need to get this over the line. So anyway, that is where we are at right now. And I haven't looked at comments for a while. So let me take a look. It looks like people are going to bed, which is fine. Pleasure as always, Eric. Your determination is next level. I have a great one. I need to get some sleep later, y'all. Well, as you know, I just took some ketones and I have to work for at least another 2 hours. So I'm going to look at some of the final comments. As Oshaber said, doctors will not want to be sued, so may follow the law for that reason. That's a good point. So this is going back to, why pass a law if it's not going to be enforced? Well, one, it probably will be. And two, it's a statement of values, and it also exposes you to legal liability. And why are you going to do that? Even if you make $300 from mutilating a kid and you're a doctor with no ethics. Washington didn't need an anti-FGM law because of other laws already exist. That's what John said. I actually don't know. There's 9 states, 9 out of 50, that don't have an anti-FGM law. I don't know off the top of my head if if Washington is one of them. But most, and even the federal judge said in the 2018 prosecution of the Muslim doctor who cut a baby girl, FGM would be illegal even if explicitly it wasn't under assault and battery laws and maybe mayhem and other things of that nature. So it's kind of, I have a client actually I'm representing in an employment action who sued Kaiser on those similar theories. And I didn't have my own law firm at the time, so I wasn't able to help him. Pro se, and he lost on a technicality that you would really only catch if you're a lawyer, unfortunately. Like you had to get like a certification of harm from a lawyer, from a doctor or a psychologist, and he didn't know because, the laws are confusing actually, or they can be. I've gotten noticeably better at it, which is good. Like I'm good at the profession, right? But my ego kind of, let's say, prevented me from, or not prevented me, but I thought I was better than I was when I was younger. Anyway. And as Prevail Over the System says, we want to win the war, not the battle. Well, perhaps, but we have to win battles at a time. The first battleground state, kind of like running for president, is Oregon. And that was just many factors coalescing to say, okay, Oregon is the winner. It has a certain resonance with me as well. I just feel it. I think it's the right place to start. This man is a legend in the Intact Global server, which you should also join, and I'll probably start plugging soon. He ha 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 lol. Only one case ever in 2017, and the law was deemed unconstitutional in 2018. Not totally sure what you're talking about. He ha 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 lol. Is there an equivalent of don't ask, told, tell policy? If we have such a huge increase in FGM risk, according to the WHO, why are there no prosecution of FGM cases happening now? I think that's a great question. Oh, sorry, Milton. I stepped on my dog. He's hanging out by the food. I think it's more just virtue signaling. I'm not convinced that there's this huge risk of female circumcision in the US. I mean, I'm open to being confronted with data that suggests otherwise, like accurate data, not, I asked chatbot to, make me some graphs and support my pre-existing position. I think, I doubt that there's a big risk of FGM, and I'm sure there would be prosecution if it was more public. So anyway, I don't know. So as Maddie was saying, Guy Schicker is a godfather of the movement for sure, and he will be there. So unfortunately, I'm stuck in cyberspace. That's because you're anonymous, dude. If you should pull off the mask. It'll be like, I'll have to think of some cultural pop example of that. Prevail over the system. You should attend the conference in Portland. You don't even have to, unveil yourself. You could just say, I was one of the people there on your channel, and everyone's gonna be like, who was it? So, you should go. If you register with your POTS email, we might figure it out. But, Oh, Neil, look at that. Oh, great to see you, Neil. And I very much look forward to seeing you again in person. I know we live on different coasts now, but you got those miles, and I very much appreciate you posting and joining the stream. I'm trying to wait until the conference occurs. So definitely make sure to get your ticket at intact.global/conference. But yeah, I'm stoked that Neil will be joining us. A few less comments, and I'm going to call it a night because it's 9:15, and I've got probably 2 hours of legal work still to do, and I'm not happy about it, but we do what we got to do to win at the Klopper Law Firm. As Gregory says, doctors will do whatever the law tells them. They live high on the hog and won't compromise that. I almost have more respect for the religious fanatics than the ambivalent doctors who do it anyway. Well, I definitely, some doctors are not making that much cash, right? I mean, it depends what you're comparing it to, like investment bankers, for example. But yeah, I don't know. Hee-ha. I'm just going to call you hee-ha. Thank you. My statement about the 2017 case is about anti-FGM cases in the U.S. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he's talking about how that Michigan case, the anti-FGM federal law was deemed unconstitutional. There's roughly 500,000 circumcised women in the U.S., mostly immigrants. I pinged you with more data on Discord. Well, thank you, hee-ha. I will look at Discord at the end of this week just because I have so much to do. Yeah, well, if you were circumcised outside the country and then you come here, there's not a whole lot the U.S. can do. I think it's almost certainly illegal to bring someone outside the country, circumcise them, and bring them back. If they're a girl, if they're a boy, you can do whatever you want, no anesthesia, and then make them eat it probably, and you'd be fine, which is totally messed up and wrong in what we're fighting. So, yeah, I don't know. If I was a district attorney, I'd be happy to prosecute it without hesitation, right? Any type of genital cutting. But, we're going to do what's most effective for children. And if that means not penalizing, but educating and issuing a statement of values to start, then that's fine. The FGM laws are basically a xenophobic statement rather than a reaction to a problem. Legislatures didn't do much for decades when Western doctors were cutting white girls like Patricia Robinette. I don't know Patricia Robinette off the top of my head. If I had more time, I would search them right now. But anyways, as Oshaber says, thank you so much for making this live. I hope to see you all again tomorrow for the next live. And as I said before, definitely check out the intact.global/conference. This is the This is the link to go get your ticket. I hope to meet you in March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. We have a room block at the Sentinel, so you can get some discounted rooms there at a top-tier hotel, which is beautiful. And thank you so much again. And I love and appreciate all of you. Subscribe to the channel, like this stream, share it tomorrow. I'll probably be sometime in the evening as well. All right. Bye, guys. Join the Intact Global Discord and subscribe.